Anybody hear me?
I'd like to call our Ways and Means Committee meeting on March 5th to order. Can we have a pledge of allegiance, please? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice.
roll call, please.
Chairman Heidingsfelder,
Here?
Mayor Labriella,
Here.
Mr. Belt,
Here.
Mr. Berner,
Here.
Ms. Kay,
Here.
Ms. Tillerson, Ms. Schubert.
We have two sets of minutes.
1 second. Can you actually hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes,
I
we
want
can
to
hear you.
apologize to my colleagues here and to the community to not be in the room with you guys for today, including also the town council member meeting. I guess two feet of snow in the last 48 hours was one reason of two attempts to come home, and that failed. The other was probably the inability of United Airlines to fly professionally. But I'm calling in from the great state of Texas, Houston. That's where I'm stranded, and hope that at some point this week United will take us home. So I apologize again for that short notice to my absence in person.
Okay, great. And the mayor will go ahead and finish taking over.
It's good seeing you, as long as you're safe. So we have two sets of minutes from the February 6th meeting and the February 21st meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the February 6th?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then the special call meeting was of February 21st. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Citizen comments? Anything? Steph? Drew? Nothing? Aaron? No one? Old business, none. Boy. New business. So we have a planning fee schedule, tab 3. John, you're going to speak to it.
Members of Ways and Means, good morning. This resolution is to amend our planning fee schedule with the proposed adoption of new landscape and tree preservation standards. We are amending the planning fee schedule to incorporate fees that would be applicable to our review process, particularly those that would be inclusive of the Tree Preservation Board consideration for review and approval. As part of that, I've also included sort of what I've called an example of the permitting fee application, and kind of we'll walk through just briefly of the rationale of what's been submitted. So to try to reduce or at least separate the process for our independent normal plan review and those that would trigger something that would go before the Tree Preservation Board is the starting point. And then additionally having to recognize that if a particular project would require site plan review approval, in addition something that would actually require Board of Zoning Appeals, because our tree preservation ordinance does require public hearings as proposed, that would essentially trigger another public hearing process. And so to not necessarily burden the applicant by having 3 separate fees, I tried to at least succinct those as much as possible for the review process. So if there are questions, I can answer any questions that you may have.
So one of the questions I had, I'm glad to hear that the tree planning review is now coinciding with the site plan review. I was not sure if there are 2 separate fees, but you're saying now was just one fee for both?
So as part of our Citizen Serve portal, we have the ability to truncate to make them one application, but we would still need to have them independent because there may be reviews that come before the tree reservation board that not necessarily are independent of our normal site plan review process.
All right, so then, so I just want to make it clear, I want to make sure I understand. So there is a separate fee for the site plan review on this page of 150, plus an additional site plan review fee of 100 for the trees? Where I'm going to is I'm thinking these fees are getting to be really, really high for a single-family residence.
So because, so the $100 was an attempt to at least still consider, because if tree preservation board review is required, then a public hearing is also required. So that does, at least, I tried to at least increase the fee a little bit, not substantially, compared to what would be required for that on top of a single review for the tree preservation board and the $350.
Okay.
So like, let's just do a hypothetical situation, and I think that would,
Sure.
a single-family home that would come in for review, they would apply for their standard zoning permit, residential zoning permit, that's a $25 fee. And on top of that, if that is warranted to have a tree preservation board review, then that kicks it to the $100 review.
Okay, so then the next item, then, the tree preservation plan review of $350,
Right.
you would need to have the $100 fee plus another $350 fee?
No, so the $350 fee would be independent of the $100 fee.
Okay, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure, okay. But then subsequently, and it says post-occupancy, there would still be an additional fee of $350.
So another hypothetical situation here, so where you see post-occupancy, this would be an application if there's an existing home that's already in place and they're, for some reason, wanted to remove a tree. That would be the review process, because that would now require approval of our tree preservation board. We are essentially processing that application similar to how we would
Oh, I
process
see,
a
okay.
variance application.
All right, I thought these were all additive, so I understand. Now it's more of like an à la carte menu, I see, okay.
Just on that, if I can just, one clarifying question, if I could, Russ, on that last point, protected or grand tree removal post-occupancy for single family. Now, we're obviously going to get into the substance of the tree ordinance, and who knows whether some changes may be made. But there is not, even under the what's up for second reading right now, tree preservation board review of protected trees for single-family properties, correct? It's only grand trees or specimen trees?
Specimen trees are, which would include grand trees and live oaks that are greater than 16 inches.
But this says protected, and protected is a lesser.
Then we can modify, that really should say specimen, that was in there previously, have we
Okay.
go, but it should
Okay.
be specimen or grand tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what if in a situation where the tree's dead, so you have to pay $350 to confirm to take
No,
down a
so
dead
based
tree?
on our ordinance, that wouldn't require a permit, they would just need to notify us
Okay.
that a tree is, dead disease or, and take official documentation of it, send that to us, but that wouldn't require.
Okay,
an
I'd like to have a footnote saying that for that, if you could, please.
And I think to Russ's point, maybe a footnote that clarifies that point 3, the post-occupancy, because I read it the same way that Russ did. To me, it seemed like another add-on, post facto, as opposed to a home that's already
Yeah, I thought it was going to
occupied.
be $350 plus another $350. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Anything else, John?
I don't know if Michael has any questions. I just one question and one general observation. And the general observation, we're not going to solve for it now here, but we've discussed it previously. As I read the the materials, Dorota, you provided under tab 10, the total amount of budgeted planning fees are $10,000. And the question becomes at some point, is this really kind of worth the effort to collect as many of these different fees and monitor and all the paperwork for all this for a total of $10,000, which is just a rounding error in our budget. Again, I don't think we're going to solve for that. I think we should come back to that. One specific question is with regard to the development agreement application fees. Your bullet says applicants may be required by council to provide funds to the town to hire third-party consultants or experts necessary to assist the town in reviewing and evaluating the application. Is that a decision that has to be made by council, or does the planning director not have the authority to pass along those costs? And, clearly a specific example recently with regard to Weston and Sampson, is that being paid by the town or by the applicants, Weston and Sampson's fees, and what would be involved in applying what you say can be done here?
So with the Western example, that was town paid for, that was a town initiated. With this particular section of development agreement applications would be initiated that planning director could come to council and say, hey, we would request a third party that the applicant actually paid to review some of the application components.
So why did we not say in this instance, applicant, we need to have a third-party review of your site plans and stormwater management plans, therefore you have to pay for the cost that of the firm we're going to hire?
I'm thinking that, Mr. Belt, that this is in regards to the fee schedule. If there's anything that we want to do in the future, because you're kind of going backwards and asking, but if there's anything, as an example, when we looked at the building permit fees in regards to some stuff that, in regards to permitting for interior work, the mayor created a subcommittee, and the subcommittee went through and looked at that as opposed to trying to do it here. They went through that. They came back to Ways and Means with a recommendation. So some of the things I think that you're asking about in other fee schedule, I think that'll be something that we will be able to sit down and really kind of look through this and make sure that what we're recommending makes sense. I know you're asking about the development agreement application fee. John had asked the mayor to be able to bring in Weston and Sampson, which is a completely different conversation with regards to this fee schedule. But I do think that if there's some concerns about how the fee structure is set up or why we're charging because of the $10,000, that's something that the previous council had decided to do away with some fees for the building permit. And clearly you guys can make that decision again, but we had a subcommittee to help us review that.
Okay, I on the bigger picture issues, that all makes sense, but I'm still not quite clear on, does the town have the authority, or does the planning director have the authority to require an applicant for development project to pay the cost of third-party reviews that the town may feel are necessary?
Yes.
And where does that authority derive from, and why did we not use it in the Weston and Sampson?
I can't explain why we didn't use it. John had asked if we can come in and we would essentially provide that service. Mayor agreed to do that. Can't go back and say why we didn't require Kiowa Partners to pay for that cost. I believe in our thinking is that we wanted to keep Kiowa Partners out of the mix, even though technically they would just been reimbursing us back for that cost. And then your other question is, where does that authority derive from? I believe, John, you have to, and that's why trying to answer stuff here on the spot, let's get back to you, because I thought it was in the zoning ordinance or maybe in the development agreement. I don't have that information off the top of my head, but let us go back and take a look, and then we'll shoot you all an email to let you know.
And part of the reason for that is obviously it's easy to talk about the Weston Sampson more recently, but with regard to whether we need additional engineering assistance or traffic engineer for traffic management or infrastructure agreements with regard to MUSC, Seafields, or Upper Beach Walk or something like that, do we have a clear process for hiring third parties and obligating the applicant to pay for those?
Yeah, we'll look into that.
That's a good point.
To create a clear policy for that.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you.
It is a good point, and I think through the experience we had with this Weston Sampson and others, there's a great deal of anxiety created about who's paying for it. And maybe something you really want to give some serious thought about in terms of the consultant. They think they'd be working for the town or for John, but if they're really footing, if the developer is really footing the bill, as you said, in the big scheme of things, it's not all that much money. Anyway, I think it's worthy of some discussion. This could be worth a lot more headaches trying to collect $1,000 from the developer than you would want.
Well, Mayor, I'm just obviously less concerned about the 900 plus
Right.
10 acres would be $1,000 there than, thank you, John.
Anything else, John? Any other questions or comments? Michael, anything?
Well, I would only like to make one comment, but I think we have to have a motion first.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Could I have a motion to approve?
So move.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
So my comment would only be for the record that I think also in comparison to other municipalities, around the country, is that in particular for these fees related to commercial projects, I think they are very, very low. Let's call it this way. I think we could, and we should at some point, increase these fees notably for commercial projects, not for single-family homes, because I think just looking at the work that the planning department is doing for the upper and lower Beachwalker Drive parcels, if you really compare the work hours with the fees associated with it, then we are subsidizing the developer to a great extent. So I think that at some point, I would like to bring forward that we are creating a little task force that looks into the fee structure a little bit more in detail as it relates to commercial projects, because I think there's quite a bit of what we could do to increase these fees just to cover more of the workload that, in particular, the planning department is handling here. That was my comment.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Item B. Jim?
All right, good morning, all. So the request here today is to approve an additional 3-year contract with Coastal Science and Engineering to do our beach monitoring. And so hopefully you guys look through the proposal, but effectively what that gets us is an annual survey in October of about 60 profile lines. And so those are lines perpendicular to the beach that start beyond the primary dune and go out into the ocean. So some of the survey is done on foot and then some by boat. And they're basically calculating sand volume so that we can have an idea of erosion and accretion rates. And then they use that data to create an annual report every year that we typically get in February or March. It also includes some aerial photography every year. So the 3-year cost is $149,585. This contract would be approved hopefully today, but no work under the contract would take place until the next fiscal year. So the first activity under the project would be the surveys in October. This is an increase from the last 3-year contract we signed, and most of that is due to an increase in the hourly rate for the individuals doing the work. So again, total cost $149,585. And that's pretty much it, unless anyone has questions.
What was the prior contract? What was the prior contract?
$113,970.
What's that in percent, Jim?
So that's more than a 20%
So-
increase?
$35,615 increase.
So it's almost a 30% increase.
Yeah.
It is.
Over a 3-year period.
Yeah, so I talked to Stephen about that, Stephen being the president of CSE, and he said that in the prior 3-year contract, that they basically didn't change their hourly rate. So this is more of a 6-year increase because they didn't change the hourly rate in the 2020 through, in the prior 3-year
2020 to
agreement.
23, or 21, 23.
Yeah, the 21 through 23 agreement did not change the hourly rate from the prior 3-year contract. So this is basically a 6-year adjustment, if you will.
So that was part of my, oh, I'm sorry, do we need to have a motion first?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Can you approve? Second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, go ahead, discussion?
I had a question with respect to the value of the contract. I wanted to make sure that this is a fixed price contract and that we're not going to be assessed escalation clauses for next year or the year after. It doesn't say either way, and I wanted to get that clarified.
It does say total not to exceed. There is a provision that says a total not to exceed.
Well, but there's another, let's see if I can find it.
You're right, there are things that aren't included. You're right.
Well, there is it talks about a proposed budget, which is one of the things, gosh, now I can't find it. Oh, here it is. So it's on page 1 of 5 in the footer. It says 1 of 5, it's a section. It looks like the agreement page. All right, so under paragraph 3.0, engineer compensation, in italics, it talks about a proposed budget. And that wording gave me cause to pause, and that it could be adjusted for reasons that are potentially like escalation. It doesn't say fixed price budget, it says proposed.
So Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things is that what they're proposing would be the budget annually at $49,862. If for some reason we, as a town, require additional work, or if they come back to us and say, we need to increase the cost for whatever reason, that increase, depending on the increase, will have to come back to Ways and Means for approval.
Right, but that's the whole point of bringing it up. That I wanted, because the way, it looks like the way.
Or additional services, and if so, we have to come back to Ways and Means. If they, for some reason, come back and say, sorry, the $49,862 was not realistic, we're having a hard time, we need to pay people more, they're gonna have to come back to Ways and Means, and you all have to decide if you're willing to amend the contract to increase that cost. What we can also do is, before we sign it, if there's something that we should add in the contract that really kind of ironclad the fact that that the cost each year is actually $49,862, what they're asking you all to approve today, we can certainly add that language into this contract before we.
But A does not include the provision that says time and expenses for the services described herein are not to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
We need to add the language that is in page 8 of 8 of the proposal into the contract.
Okay.
It's section 4.415 regarding purchasing and requisition of professional services seems to require.
I think that we don't do it at some of the things. As an example, they may not be sole source, but CSE, we don't rebid that out. So some of the relationships that we have, we may not automatically bid them out just because of the history that they have, but then I would recommend that we bid them out again in 3 years. So if we were to go strictly based on that, everything that we do and present will have to be bidded out. But I think from council's discretion, if you all feel like we can utilize this consultant firm again, we can do that. But if you truly want to go and rebid this particular contract out, I can do that as well.
What doesn't appear in our ordinance provides that discretion. I guess that's the point that I'm making.
And I understand the point that I'm making is that we presented a number of things to you all, that if that's the case, we should bid out every single thing.
Okay.
So we can't, so.
But in this particular case, Brad, I think, the key for a successful study is really understanding the job descriptions and the real jobs that we have in the town. If we would bid this out every time again and have a learning curve by whoever we select from a bidding process, we are losing time and actually precision. So there is a benefit for us here to actually, at least for one more term, to use the same consultant for this study, because exactly as Stephanie said, they have all the benchmarks, they understand the job descriptions, they understand the real jobs that our people are doing, and we have 5 more people that we need to assess, or jobs that we need to assess. So
And I don't.
I understand the pickle, but just for common sense.
Yeah, and
it does make sense.
I don't disagree with any of that substantively. Then it raises the question procedurally whether we should look at revising our purchasing ordinances to address situations like this, because right now we don't actually appear to have that kind of flexibility in our ordinance.
And that's what I'll add that comment.
Just the other question regarding this, it keeps referencing the project manager. Who's the project manager for this?
I am.
You are. And then it says at one point, provide instructional information training to human resources staff to ensure that staff can conduct audits, adjustments, et cetera, and using this job force manager tool. What is happening with all of that?
So historically, or the last time we had, I was also the HR person for the town, but we now also finally have consultants to help me with that resource. So they also provided for us a performance eval that we train senior staff. So there's opportunity. So within this proposal, we're working with senior staff. We're doing training. We're working with other staff members to look at job descriptions. So they may have some tools that they're using. When I'm working with them, the only tool, so there's a job assessment tool that I give out to all the staff, and the staff essentially then have to put in the information or in the job description. All of that is formulated and calculated and it's sent over to Evergreen. So it's a number of tools, but I work mainly directly with
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Steph, when's the timing on this? When will they get back with this report?
Well, normally this report would probably take them probably about 90 days.
Mid-year? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, just one other. I guess is that report then, when do you anticipate that report will be completed, and then will that be provided to council?
I share a copy, like I did before with the last one. I do share a copy with council once it's finalized.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Solid waste fees.
A couple of months ago, the town council, you approved a new contract for the solid waste collection on the island with Trident. In result of the new contract, our price for this, our cost, pretty much increased about a little over 50%. And just on a side note, the other bidder was pretty close in price, so the price wasn't really a main factor to choose that new company. The price increase is mostly related to inflation, hiring full-time employees that will be more familiar with the island. With that, we're hoping to improve our services. Recently, there has been increased number of complaints of missteps. Because the town offers a different type of services, it's a little unusual than other municipalities that it's pretty much just a curbside for garbage, recycle. Here we offer also additional convenience of going to your back door, picking up the garbage at the back door twice a week. So with all this, we're hoping that hiring full-time employees that will be familiar with the island, familiar with those type of services, and learn that, we have a lot of part-time residents that sometimes the garbage collectors assume they still not there. They only there a couple of weeks, so they don't bother walking that driveway just because they weren't there for 3 weeks. So anyway, with all this, with all those enhancements to the service that we hope it's gonna improve, there was a price to it. And so what we have done historically is that the town pretty much covers the cost of curbside service. We subsidize that service to all the curbside and multifamily residents. So what it was in the past, it was $180 that we applied to every resident or every customer on the island, and in result of that, the curbside service was $0, and every additional service paid the extra fee for this extra convenience. Couple of years ago, maybe that was like 5 years ago, the council decided that for the businesses as rentals, we're gonna charge them full cost. We pretty much passed the full cost of the service. There is no subsidy only to the residents. So with all this structure, the town pretty much subsidized $425,000 of collection fees, and additionally, we do pay for the beach pickup and the public locations such as Kestrel Court, 21 Beach Walker, this one here at the town hall, and the public pools. So with this new, I have a schedule of the new fees. If I can bring your attention to the schedule, just so you'll see, the second column shows the current rate, what we charge to the residents. Those are annual charges, and we bill them July 1st, beginning of July, for the whole year. So with the increase in the contract, our unit cost now also increased. So the staff is proposing that we will have the same approach to what we had before, and will fully subsidize curbside, which is going to be now $288, and partially subsidize any other service of 50% of the subsidy. So pretty much the same thinking as we had for years, but because of the cost, the unit cost for every type of service, there will be some increases. They do look, when you look at percentages, they look high, they over 100,000, but this is just an annual cost. And it's $258 for the back door, $328 for the HOA families, and I'm sorry, $328 is for twice a week, and for the HOAs is $304 increase. And there was an increase also in rental properties. And again, we propose that we will not subsidize that. We will fully pass the cost to the business owners, to the rental owners. I check with other municipalities in the area, so because we are a little different in terms of providing those additional services. So this, pretty much we can only compare curbside to curbside, because others, that's what they offer. So they all charge it either through a user fee, like we do, or through the property taxes. And majority in the area is actually property taxes. It goes through property taxes. So the Charleston County right now, they calculate the amount that is included in your property tax is $150 dump for per family per year. So everything extra, I guess, this is how much they have to pay to use the dump site, $150. So everything extra in that unit cost that we will be paying as staff, you know, it's the cost, operating cost for the business. So if you approve and you agree with the same approach and with those subsidies, the amount that the town will be paying or out of pocket or subsidized is going to increase about $125,000, and that's going to be about $550,000 annually. So any questions?
I just missed that last part.
But just a motion to approve?
Yeah, have a
yeah,
motion
I'm
to
sorry.
approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I just missed that last part, Deruta. Say that one more time.
So if we approve that, only because the subsidy amount. The same approach, those new prices, only because the amount of subsidy will increase from 180 to 288.
Right.
The amount that the town will pay for the service will increase for $125,000.
Okay.
So instead of $120,000 that we used to pay for garbage, we're gonna pay now $550. And just, so this depends on the type of service. So this is kind of ongoing scenario because people change services. Often, I mean, it's not going to change a lot, but weekly we do have 1-2 changes that people change from curbside. They decide that they want a backdoor, so they will, you know, keep changing. So this is not a fixed number.
I don't see anything here for Kestrel Court or the beach.
So because we always paid for it. The town pays for this.
Got it, okay, all right, so this is
This is
just for
only for the
subsidies.
residents,
Got it,
yes.
got it, okay.
Those public locations, we pay for it. We don't charge that.
Okay.
So, a few questions, Dorota, and I'm struggling to make sense of the way these numbers play out. It looks like the cost of the curbside service is going up 60%. The backdoor garbage collection is going up almost 300%.
So I understand, but this is the unit cost we got from the company. With Carolina Waste, the previous contract that we signed 5 years ago, we grandfathered the prices. And not that it's just how to, I understand the unit cost, when you compare the current, the cost come from the company, from Trident, and I compared it to what Carolina Waste charges us. So I understand it jumps, and even when I was comparing the unit cost between those two companies with the new proposal, they were really not in line, even though the total amount. The total amount was pretty much the same, but when you looked, I remember the backdoor in one was, for example, like in this one, the backdoor was $210, the other one was $100. So I see that there is no really.
But we discussed all of this. If I'm not mistaken, you know, when we discussed the contract, right? And the increases, you know, make actually sense if you look at the different services and the manpower involvement, right? Because the manpower is the most expensive part in this entire contract. It's not the amortization of the truck or the bins or whatsoever. It's really the personnel cost. And we all agreed that we want, you know, better services, which means we need to have full-time people instead of, you know, temps that are switching jobs all the time. So the reason why, for example, backdoor service is more expensive is because we have to have a person that, you know, walks ahead of the truck, goes on site, pulls out the bin to the curb and brings it back. So that's purely, you know, labor cost. That's why it's so much more expensive compared to regular curb service. It's logic. to me at least.
Well, I understand that. The bigger issue, it was just the pro rata increase was the one issue. The bigger issue that I'm struggling with, and I'd actually gotten, as soon as I had seen this, I had this question, but a couple of other people had posed this, is that it appears that whoever has backdoor garbage collection is not getting the same full subsidy.
Correct.
So why does not the same amount of subsidy apply to any trash collection?
So it's 50%. So 100% for subsidy, 100% to curbside, and every other service is reduced by 50%. And this was the previous, not previous, but 5 years ago.
This was under Mayor Weaver.
Mayor Weaver. That was the council decision to do it 50% of subsidy.
So of course, the discussion that you all have, that you can do is if you want to increase that subsidy or stay with what
Or just
the
apply
previous.
the same
Or-
amount of subsidy to all.
Which would be a decision to
property owners.
increase that by this council. The previous council didn't
Yes.
want to, they voted not to do that.
And agree with additional labor costs, but as I'm looking at this, for example, in our regime, you're required to have backdoor service. And so somebody who in the next neighborhood doesn't require that, they pay nothing for curbside. And here it's, it's not curbside, it's backdoor, but it's the 30 feet you walk into right up to the garage door, and you pay $4.68, where the person, just down the street pays nothing. And it's, there's no
Yeah, but that's
real, there's no full
that's your
subsidy.
personal decision,
Pardon?
Brett. That's the decision your HOA took.
But Michael, it's not the issue of backdoor service, it's the fact that the subsidy is not applied, the same subsidy is not applied to all homeowners.
So
I view the back door as a luxury kind of
Exactly.
benefit.
And you should pay more for it,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
that, but if you want to have that luxury, then I don't think we should have a different subsidy because you want to have that luxury kind of.
I absolutely agree. What I'm saying is, should the same subsidy apply to all single-family property owners? And if you pay more for backdoor service, but you get the same subsidy as anyone else.
I understand your point.
Yeah.
When I had my business, I paid for the entire healthcare benefits for a single person. If you had a family plan, then that individual would pay for the family plan. I don't think you have to be the same across the board, because I view this as a luxury thing, so it goes more to the homeowner. That's my opinion.
And that was
But
the-
vote will be-
And you should not forget, Brad, that sometimes, like in my case, if I'm out of town, but I still have the trash to be out on the curb, I have to pay my property manager to move the bin out on the curb and move it back in. That's the extra service I pay for, and that's the extra service you pay for if you made that decision to have the backdoor service.
Actually, our property manager doesn't do any of that.
Again, what you're suggesting, or what you just,
Well,
question,
the
subsidy is what?
The subsidy, the
$288.
$288 subsidy, which was previously $188,
Right.
is not applied in full to all single-family. It's not a consistent subsidy across all property owners. I have zero issue with paying more for obviously backdoor service because it is, regardless of whether it's required or not, it is an additional service, additional labor cost. The question is, why does somebody not get, one homeowner that's under one regime, not get the same subsidy
So
that the town
you're thinking
provides?
in terms of the absolute dollar versus
Yeah,
the percentage?
yes.
And you're working under the presumption it's all percentage?
50%. No,
50%,
well,
100% for.
No, it's but 50% of 288, so it's 144. However, I did prepare for this because so if we would apply this 100% subsidy across, which will apply 288 to every service, will be additional $198,000 that the town will subsidize. So instead of now subsidizing the full or 550, we'll have 720. That's the town will pay for the garbage.
Brad, I think the number, I think we are paying the same amount, unless I don't understand this.
no,
Wait,
you're-
wait.
50%.
Yeah.
So
No, but I'm looking at, with the absolute value for backdoor garbage collection, the proposed rate on your table was $4.68.
Yep.
versus a cost of $612.
So you only get $150 worth.
Right,
yeah, half of it.
which is.
140.
But, and the row right above that shows the curbside, we're paying the entire amount of
right.
153.
No.
So it is the same amount.
No, 288,
288.
paying the full amount of 288.
The first line is 288 and every,
Oh, I
and
see.
every other is
Okay.
144. It's
Okay.
50%.
So it's an issue of, again, no question, pay more for backdoor service. Anybody gets that needs to pay more because it's more expensive. The sole question is, should the subsidy that the town is providing be applied equally to all homeowners? That would have one consequence is if we did that without any other change, it would be an additional cost to the town of they raise the overall cost of the subsidy by $195,000. Or you reduce the subsidy that somebody has curbside, they don't get 100%, but they maybe just everybody gets 75% to reduce that down to get rid of that 195,000. But right now, for some reason, that doesn't make any sense to me. The amount of the subsidy varies depending on the type of service that you have.
I hear you.
Well, but Brett, if you are in disagreement with this, then just discontinue your backdoor service and you get the full subsidy.
Number one, I don't have that
rolling my
option.
bin
I
to
don't
the
have
curb
that
every
option.
week.
I don't. Again, a lot of regimes don't have that option, but that's beside.
Yeah, but that's your regime's decision.
But Michael, it's the point is, why are some homeowners treated differently than others?
It's a valid point.
Because they want to have a special service.
No,
And that's
But
how
one of
No,
the
it's
things,
the-
The town
Dorota,
is making that decision.
the algorithm that we're using to determine our subsidization, you're using an algorithm 5 years ago, and it's just really whether we want to continue with the same
Exactly.
algorithm or do we
right,
want to
is a
modify
previous
it.
council made the decision, if this current council wants to
Yeah.
stick with that
No, I
decision or
understand.
change it. One of the things, Dorota, in your number, when you talked about backdoor service, so we have the twice a week, we have backdoor recycling. Was that included in the for the
Yes,
backdoor
yes,
recycling?
yes.
And then you did not include, because rental properties have to have backdoor service, you did not include that cost. We're in that. I'm just making sure.
Yeah. And this, the prices include recycling, garbage, and your debris. So that's the total of it. And just one more comment. Your proposal of billing curbside, which we will do however council decide, it's about 1,000 bills to be. Right now, we don't have to bill them. So just the work put into billing someone $20 or $25 may be just annually, just not worth it. So, yeah,
Just a suggestion, and
yes.
just a suggestion, and just to be a suggestion.
Should be automated.
Is to spell out the algorithm, to actually do an equation in terms of how it's created, past, present, possible, future. Similar to Russ's comments about the level of subsidization for healthcare benefits to employees. Just spell it out.
Well, one of the
And then you
issues,
can just determine whether or not, and then each would have an associated cost. Then just determine, do you want to continue or do you want to modify it?
well, one of the things is because we no longer have a gap between Ways and Means and Council, what you're asking her to do, council votes on this at 1 o'clock. So if we end earlier, you want her to try to create that table for the 1 o'clock meeting?
Well, I mean, this needs to go into effect.
July 1st, however, it needs to be communicated, so
Yeah.
I would like, the worst case, we can do.
Did it in April.
In April, have
April
a
meeting.
final approval, because we want to communicate, then we need to send the letters, then change our billing system.
I would then move that we table this for 1 month with the purpose of evaluating two options and the budget implications of that. One is applying the same subsidy across all homeowners, which I think you've said would entail $195,000. And at the other end of the spectrum, if we wanted to have a neutral budget impact, how would the subsidy be reduced for every homeowner? So it would still be applied equally to all homeowners.
Well, I would only well, that's fine, maybe a third,
Yeah.
but I would not ever suggest that there's any change to the level of subsidization for curbside. I mean, that is a full-blown benefit that we provide to
That's
residents.
correct.
That could be a third.
Well, I mean, are you saying, for example, it could be, are you saying that the towns are, what we're trying to say is curbside, you never have to pay, or we could say, you're going to have to pay $50 instead of $288 in order to make sure that the same subsidy is applied to everybody without any adverse budget impact.
Well, no, I'm
But
tracking,
Brett, I
I'm
think
tracking your
you're
comments
making
about.
one logic mistake here, right? Because if somebody like me who only has curb service, I'm not creating any cost for the town except for the pickup at the curb. If you want a special service, like backdoor, it's not only more expensive, but it also creates cost for the town to process all of this, right? To write an invoice, to follow up, to make sure they are paid. If they're not paid, to write another letter again. So I think that there is a difference between the $288 that the town subsidizes for curb service versus the $144 that the town subsidizes, for backdoor service. Some of it is also because we have more costs that we need to cover. Now, is that worth $144 or not? That's a question, right? So, but I would oppose to apply the same rebate to curb service and to backdoor service because these are different and they're causing the town different costs.
Well, the only.
But we can certainly look at
The only
narrowing
different
that.
cost that
But the same amount would not be justified because of the additional cost that a backdoor service creates for the town.
The
Well, I think we're
only
giving guidance
additional
to
cost.
DeRuta in terms of coming up with some calculations.
I can do
so-
like 70.
This is a fundamental discussion, right? Because if the DeRuta now walks away and says she has to and thinks she has to equalize, the subsidies to everybody, I think that creates another unfairness. I understand Brad's point that, it's unfair. It seems unfair that a curb service gets more subsidies than a backdoor service, but some of it is actually justified.
Understood, yeah.
I kind of, I'm sorry, Michael, I like to agree with you all the time, but I kind of feel where I think a resident here should, if you're giving $288 for curbside service, and that's fully subsidized, then that's what you're entitled as a homeowner to receive. Anything over that is on your dime. So I'm kind of agreeing with Brad on this. I just wanted to explain that to you. I think
I
a
understand
resident's
that, Russ, but
entitled to
my
the.
argument is, it is then not fair to me, as an example, right? Because that means I'm subsidizing those that I have a backdoor service because the town pays for all the processing of invoices and everything.
Well, that's a choice, Michael, just like you said, it's a regime, you choose to have backdoor service, whether that's true or not. The town has chosen not to invoice you for basic curbside service. It could invoice everybody $50 and invoice another $288 to backdoor services. It chooses not to. It could choose not to actually invoice for backdoor service. That would be unfair to everybody who only has curbside service, which I completely recognize. I'm not sure what whether the cost of invoicing, which should be automatic, there should be an automated system, actually amounts to $144 per person.
Well, that's my point, Brad. I agree with you. But I'm against giving instructions to DeRuta now to say every homeowner is treated identically. I understand the difference of $144 between, curbside and backdoor service is huge, but a certain portion of it, and I don't know if it's $20 or $30, would be justified because of the processing. And yes, there is, an automated system, but it has to be fed, it has to be corrected. It has to be followed up if bills are not paid, etc. There is administrative work in DeRuta's department for that.
I don't know
If
what
this is worth 20 bucks
I don't know what we're
per
debating
property
here.
or 30 bucks,
We
I
were
don't
asking
know.
Dorota to come
But
up
something
with,
in that neighborhood is certainly justified, so that the subsidy cannot be, in my opinion, cannot be the same as
We're asking
for every property.
we were asking Dorota to come up with some algorithms. I think we're all in
That's
agreement,
my
or will
only
be in
point.
be in agreement, that curbside, the subsidization for curbside service shouldn't change. That would be one. There could
Yes.
be others, but that would be one. And then I think it's kind of like a cafeteria, we used to call it, in terms of benefit. Then there's just the subsidization for these add-on programs. And let the consumer decide whether or not they want to go to Backdoor or twice a week or da-da-da-da-da. That's all.
And by the way, Michael makes a good point. So I, as a homeowner, would not have a problem if the subsidy were applied to everybody. You get additional charge for backdoor service. And if somebody chooses backdoor service, whether it's volitional or not, there is an additional charge above the unit cost to cover processing, the $20 or something.
That would be okay. That would be okay for me too,
that would
because
be-
that's
that's
the
not
equality that we
unreasonable.
seem to be, aiming for. That's okay for me too.
Okay.
Okay.
You just need to be able to explain it to somebody, be able to, what.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, so I will have a scenario that everyone gets 100% subsidy of that amount, and then one that 100% plus 20, the one that have extras will do $20 for admin cost.
Well, I'm not, that's,
No.
whatever the
25?
number,
Everybody
whatever
gets,
the.
everybody gets $288,
Yes,
and who has backdoor service need to pay the difference between the cost difference between curb service and backdoor service, plus an administrative fee.
Yeah.
okay,
Yes,
yeah. Okay, so I will do that, and just to confirm, is the approach for rentals that they will pay the full price, or full cost, that we pass the full cost, is that okay?
That would be fine with me.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, I think that's more than justified.
Okay,
Plus
so,
the same processing fee that you would apply for backdoor service.
okay, so I will add that. Okay. Okay, so I will come back with that proposed cost next month.
We get a.
So there is a
motion to
pending
table.
motion to
Yeah,
refer-
yeah, somebody needs to make a motion to table, please.
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay, thank
All in
you.
favor to table?
Thank you.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Dorota.
Thank you, Dorota. Could I have a motion to approve? This is True Luck Construction. This is the
Intersection.
infamous intersection. Well, let's hear your report first.
Good morning, everybody. So as you all know, we have spent a good bit of time looking at the intersection at Beachwalker Drive and Key Island Parkway, and how we can make some improvements there to the flow of traffic and to pedestrian safety. We have contracted with Kimley Horn to come up with a design to meet that desire for us. Currently, right now, what we have out there, you see the white bollards that are in the intersection. We have had Kimley Horn come up with a design to basically make that a raised, channelized left-hand turn onto Beachwalker Drive, and also pull back that finger island so that that radius is increased for trucks turning off of Beachwalker Drive to get onto the outbound section of the parkway. So we got the design for that from Kimley Horn. We put it out for bid publicly. And for the construction portion of it, we received 2 bids from the RFP. One was from True Luck Construction for $186,469, and the other bid was from First Construction Management for $261,000. Town staff reviewed these bids with the consultant, Kimley Horn, and we are requesting that the Ways and Means Committee recommend to Town Council approving the bid from True Luck in the amount of $186,469 to perform the services described in the scope of work. Are there any questions?
Move approval of the Trulek Construction contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. From an overall perspective, I don't like the bollard look, and I don't think the residents like the bollard look, but I think we need to have something there to keep everybody in the lane. I was thinking of raised buttons. But what I wanted, we don't need to have the raised buttons, and they're half spherical, where they stand up above the ground, and it would be uncomfortable for a car to drive over them. You don't have to have it the whole way, but that's something I wanted to bring up there. But
Can
what
I ask
Yes, sir.
what the idea behind that is? I'm not understanding.
I think we need to prevent people from making the turn and immediately merging into the travel lane exiting. I actually think the bollards right now are working great. I understand they're unsightly, so that part I'm on board with. But I see the merge happening really well. People in front of me, people behind me, they slow down, they let people in. I don't want to have people turning from Beach Walker onto the Parkway and immediately going into the lane of travel.
So, can I ask a question? Because you used the term.
Can I finish?
Yeah, I was just trying, so I understand, I'm trying to follow the term you used. You said raised, you're talking about the raised landscape area? I think you said raised button.
Yeah, well, let me explain what I'm
Place
talking
landscape?
about.
Okay.
Is that landscape?
So on the colored piece of paper, that second page of the handout, there's a green raised island, which is where I understand where the landscaping will be.
Yeah, okay.
That green, and I need to understand which option we're going with, because I'm probably okay with the raised green island without these buttons that I was defining. But if you go further back in the presentation, the island on the drawings is a different shape. It's more triangular or more equilateral triangular shape. The one that's on the colored version is much longer and narrower, which is providing the solution that I'm looking for delaying people from immediately merging into the travel lane. So the construction drawings have a different shape.
Yep.
Have
I
a
mean, you're
different
right.
shaped triangle.
Yeah.
Than what's on the
Yeah,
colored
so which
version.
one is,
It would be the construction drawings are what was bid on.
Okay, so then I go back that I think we need something that's going to prevent, if you look at the construction drawing, somebody can go right from turning left onto the Parkway into the travel lane, and that's what I want to prevent.
So I will say that there is probably a threshold of how far out you channelize that lane or separate those two lanes. One thing that I've talked with Dylan from Kimberly Horn about is he as a traffic engineer thinks right now there's too many bollards out, because you're wanting that traffic, if you have the ability to get over sooner, that's better. Instead of keeping them in the lane until there's not a whole lot of road left until you have to get over. So in his mind, from a traffic engineering standpoint, we would remove some of those bollards so that car coming off of Beachwalker Drive could get into the through lane faster. Now, again, there
I
might
think
be
it's
that
too fast.
threshold.
It's still there.
I think we need to go in the middle.
Russ,
I just
what
want
is
to
the
say,
button?
So this is there, you're saying it's going to be moved, it's there.
no,
So
somebody
this
who's
is
making
the
that turn all the
raised
time.
area,
Yeah,
and so this is
agree with
that
you.
area.
Now, I hadn't focused on this. This
That-
one's
see,
risk being
it's
too
that area,
abrupt.
so-
Yes.
It's a
Correct.
different shape.
A button is,
But you
you
said
take a
it's gonna be
ball,
eliminated. They
slice
think
it in
that's
half.
gone.
It's a
Oh, no, no, no,
relatively
no.
Yeah,
large
so it's not
ball,
gone. It's not
2
gone.
inches tall.
What?
It's
I don't think
something
they
that
thought that
if
it was
you
gone.
ride
I think
over it,
Russell liked how
you
in the
will be
picture
Well,
jarred,
and
you
he's just
don't
looking-
want
and
to
he's just
ride
looking at
over it.
this one,
They use
but
that
if you
in
look at the
tunnels to
next one,
keep
you still have
people
the
in the
elongated one,
same
you still have
lane,
that
so you don't
section.
change
yeah.
lanes.
So that section's not
And they
gone.
want you
No,
to stay in
no.
a particular lane, they
not
make it
gone.
uncomfortable to change lanes.
So,
So,
oh, sorry,
So you okay?
Brad.
You
Oh, yeah.
okay?
Oh,
You
I'm
okay?
fine, I just forgot that that's there. Okay, so that is still there.
Yes.
That is this That's
No, we
that.
understand.
Oh,
But
this.
no, the concern is, and I think Russ is absolutely right, is this allows an abrupt merge into, because people are still coming pretty quickly, and there's still a constant tension right now. Every time they make that turn, you may have consistently good experiences. I would say 80% of the time, that's true. But there are 10 to 20% of the times where the person coming on Beachwalker, because they're coming off Beachwalker, going slower. There's a car coming still at 30 miles an hour that's behind where you are as you're starting to get over, and they're not slowing down. They're insisting that they have the right of way. And so all of a sudden you have to then kind of brake. And so this would exacerbate, I think, the smaller triangle. I get the point about maybe there's a bollard or two too many right now, but I think
Yeah,
there's a middle.
I would say there's probably too many bollards right now, to your point, but maybe you go right in the middle.
Is-
But I think we need to keep them separate for a short distance, so they don't
Michael.
accidentally or on purpose
Because
merge.
this actually, the way it is now with the bollards in this, forces the person coming off Beachwalker to kind of stay over and look. You might be incented with this one, if you're the slightest bit ahead, to just jump out into
Could we
that lane
possibly
where-
talk with Kimberly Horn and maybe see if the cost isn't great, maybe just extend that triangle instead of doing the bollards, just extend
No, just to
concrete?
Well, I was talking as a lower cost alternate I'm not in favor of the bollards because I do think they're unsightly, and that's why I brought up the buttons. They're low on the ground, and as I said, they use these in tunnels, at least in New York City, all over the place, to force you to stay in your lane.
So
you don't wanna
rather
ride
than
over 'em.
extend the island as
Right.
shown in the color photograph, just you're extending the island, not with an island, but with
These
the
buttons.
buttons for a little
Buttons.
bit.
For a short distance, 5 feet, 10 feet, not the
I would
current.
be fine with either one of those.
What would you suggest in the center of the buttons? All asphalt?
No, they're just they're a hard plastic button. There's
No,
nothing in the center.
I know.
But it
I'm
is. It's
familiar
just
with-
road.
But
It-
in the center of it, I mean,
Yeah.
inside, instead of being elevated curbs and then some type of landscaping, it would just be asphalt.
Correct, nothing.
It'd be the button.
Okay. I have a few comments as well. So beside the fact that I'm always puzzled, how scientific Kimberly Horn approaches all of this, when I look at the drawings, I think I could have drawn this myself, and Russ probably even better. What I'm missing here are two things. One, I don't have a feel and certainly a lack of confidence that Kimberly Horn, when drawing these sketches, have really considered how many bad drivers we have every day, especially truck drivers, every day on this island or approaching this island. And I think the best proof to it is the curve, on Kiowa Island Parkway coming from Cassique driving towards Kiowa. And shortly before the bridge, we are making almost a 45-degree turn. And every time again, the curb is damaged by somebody who's obviously either not able to drive or is driving while on the phone. So looking at these drawings, I don't have confidence that there's enough room for, those bad drivers to stay in lane. So that's my first comment. The second one is that I'm really surprised that Kimberly Horn has not thought more about how to enable or how to notify drivers that there is the necessity to merge into one lane. So either signage or something, on the pavement that would really alert both lanes, those that are coming from Beachwalker Drive and those that are going, straight ahead from Kiowa Island Parkway, that they actually have to merge. So those are my two concerns with this current concept, and it does not. Both of them make me not feel 100% confident that we are yet looking at the right solution. And the discussion we had before, between Russ and Brad, et cetera, seems to prove that as well.
So Michael, I think one of the things that we probably could have provided, so Kimberly Horn has provided signage essentially packaged for us. It was provided to Brian in the form of an email, things that we can do once it's installed moving forward. We do have that information, even to discuss and propose markings in the road.
And there are markings in the road currently.
We put that, we've already did that part, so
Yes.
Kimberly Horn has.
There's only the
put together a
two
packet.
arrows for the beach walker folks, but I think to Michael's point, a sign, there needs to be a sign for people exiting off island saying, merging traffic or something.
And we have.
Right of way.
And we have that information proposal from them. We just need to either put it in place now or after the construction is done. So they have provided that information to us. We, as staff, may just not have installed it or put it in place yet. And then the first question Michael had, I think in terms of, we had to go back to Kimberly Horn, when they were looking at that road about expanding it, which could have been something that if council at the time that this was presented wanted to do, but it would have potentially involved looking at, I believe, was it OCRM wetlands or Kika right away? Like we went up, I think we pushed, please correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we pushed up to our right of way, either to our right of way or their concerns about having to go.
Stephanie,
on the outbound side.
I don't want to bring up anything related to improving the curve, that I was talking about on Kiowa Island Parkway.
Okay.
Towards the bridge. That's a
Right.
separate topic. I understand
Not
that.
bridge.
But looking at the drawings, and envisioning these large flatbed trucks that will, for years to come, approach, from Kiowa Island, from Beachwalker Drive because of all of the construction projects, these islands will look horrible because of these poor drivers. That's my concern. I don't see enough space for them to maneuver.
So they certainly accounted for that to an extent by bringing back the existing island that we see has tire tracks all over it. That's coming back to increase that radius for bigger trucks to be able to make. Now, of course, we're still going to see tire tracks on that part on that turn. It's inevitable, but the effort is to bring that curb back so that we're not seeing it how it is today.
I understand that, Brian. I'm just trying to argue that I don't feel comfortable right now that we have given enough space, that you have to change the curbs, etc., to avoid that a good driver can make a turn. I understand that. I'm just talking about the 10% bad drivers we seem to have, and if Kimberly Horn has really accounted for it, properly. That's my point.
I'll follow up with them and see how they came up with the amount of curbing they're pulling back.
Brian, a couple of points. Since they've already taken the initiative and moved the curbs back, I guess the fundamental question is, can they move the curbs back further? That would be one. But I'm still stuck on Russ's suggestion. It sounds good. I just don't, in my head, I'm trying to visualize what I see in a darkened tunnel, going different places, and I know to stay in my lane, versus an elevated curb with plantings or something that's really visual, that really pops at you, that you're not supposed to drive over that. I understand, they're different approaches with the same intent, but I don't know that
I would prefer the elevated curb, but then you would have to widen the road to give space for that smaller island, which is why I went to the buttons.
And you're only talking about the button for a few feet
Correct.
beyond the island.
Correct.
So
I thought you meant the
No.
buttons around the
No.
entire
No.
island.
I think
Oh.
he's just to extend the point of the
I'm-
island a little bit.
No, I understand. That's why I was asking you, what were you envisioning inside of the island?
Oh, no, it would just be right here.
Got it. That's fine. That's probably a good idea.
So my question is, and I wasn't here for the initial instructions out to Kimberly Horn, but this looks like a nice aesthetic Band-Aid to the problem. I'm replacing what the community is calling the white toilet plungers. Is there a plan to more broadly fix this problem as opposed to Band-Aid it?
We've looked at a bunch of options. We're very limited with the real estate that we have. you know, there are certainly a couple of options that we've talked about, but they involve other stakeholders playing with us and doing things in conjunction with one another, and I just don't think we've gotten that agreement with everybody yet. So given our limited space and areas, this is what we can do outside of potentially putting a roundabout that we talked about months ago, and that just, it wasn't gonna be, we weren't gonna get the reward for the cost at that point.
And Madeline, I would just note that from somebody, again, who lives there is in this intersection constantly, I've been pleasantly surprised at how well it has worked by doing the through lane, the bollards, as unsightly as they are, having the traffic control officer there in the morning who can direct traffic both ways. So I think it's actually more than a Band-Aid. The one thing that does give me some pause is I think we may have to also have the traffic control officer there going forward in most evenings, because what I've witnessed now is at about 5 o'clock or so, or a little before that, the traffic backs up on Beachwalker quite a bit, and that is tougher to get people through, and that is all the end-of-day contractors leaving the Cape project. And it backs up sometime to right in front of Riverview, so it's sometimes, that's only going to get worse. So, but I think we're gonna have to have the traffic control officers only been really focused on the morning traffic coming on island to have perhaps be there in evenings as we go forward.
That's, that's a good point, Brad, but what I would suggest to do because obviously when construction gets going, it's going to get bad, I would require that per the contractor's contract. Make him provide it in the evening.
Which is exactly what Seabrook did, and again, we've talked about other things like phasing your departures and things like that, so.
Okay.
But I was skeptical when, this was first done, as to whether, but again, I've been pleasantly surprised how well this has worked.
Well, could I have a motion to approve?
Well, so what, are we approving, what is it, are we approving the construction design as is, or are we going?
The design was approved. This is the cost for the construction. The design was approved back in January or December even.
Yeah, by council. So council has already approved the design.
Right.
Then we just went out to bid based on what council approved.
So
And
this
so
is
we're asking.
approving True Luck to perform the construction services.
And I gotta be honest, and bad on me, I hadn't focused, as Russ focused attention on the construction drawings opposed to what I thought was the Kimley Horn
Me too.
image, and the difference between those two.
Well, and that's not to say that we can't, not to misspeak, but potentially we could talk about kind of reworking the geometry a little bit if there's not going to be any change to cost or anything that's going to bring us back here, because we don't want to delay this at all. We want this to be done.
Yeah, I would suggest approving it. There will be a change order for the buttons or a different shaped triangle, but the buttons are going to be $2,000-$3,000. It's not going to be a big
And to
number.
the point that Michael had raised, whether you need to carve out a little bit more of
I've got that written down.
of the island as well, because it's a sharp turn right now, even for regular cars. And it just doesn't work for larger trucks at all right now.
And you might be able to, Brian, you know how we had to do on the Parkway around some of our curves? We went in and we put in that material, the shoulder stabilization. The landscaping, it allowed to grow grass, but it could be that they can add some of that extra couple of, foot or two of the shoulder stabilization that we had put on the Parkway on those curved areas for
And
the
this is going to
trucks.
be, this is going to be performed at night?
Yes, sir.
Majority of the work, there may be some.
Anything that's impacting traffic will be night work.
So when would night work start, time-wise, I mean?
Right now, the best timeline I have is early April.
No, I'm sorry, time of the day?
It's in the notes in the construction. I think it's 7 or 8 p.m.
Okay, that works, okay.
To be out of there by 5 a.m.
That works, okay.
So Madeline, to your question, this is the fix. As, maybe it's not as we would have wanted it, but this is the best we're going to be able to come up with. So whether it's buttons or curbs or cutting back on whatever, those are little bits of enhancements, but this is, as Brad said, that through lane seems to be working well. We just got to dress it up a little bit.
And I'll share with you, Madeline, the council did look at other alternatives that involve roundabouts, but the only way that will work is through the acquisition of the real estate office. So I can provide that to you,
Okay.
just as information.
Okay, so do we have a motion now or
Not yet.
Still confused.
That's what I was asking.
I moved early
Oh,
to
I'm
approve the
sorry.
True Luck.
Okay.
And I'm
There's a
seconded.
second?
Yeah, but I would approve it only with another, because I honestly, Brian, I don't remember that when we approved, going forward with this fix, that there were detailed drawings like we have seen now. But I might have overlooked it like Brett as well. But anyway, so I would only be willing to approve this if there's another serious consideration about the side, the width of the turns and the size of the curbs.
Absolutely. I've got those written down for me to talk to the consultant.
Okay.
So,
Brad made a
We have a
motion.
motion and second.
So I may modify my motion to address the issues that Michael raised, move approval of the True Luck construction contract contingent upon staff discussing various issues with True Luck, and if there's going to be a material change in the cost, then you would come back to us, but otherwise,
What would you define as material? Is 10,000 less considered
10%.
10%.
10%? Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think the notion of the buttons is kind of an interesting one. That could be a good, that could be a fix in a number of different areas possibly where we have traffic moving back and forth.
Well, it actually would provide additional room for trucks. coming
Without
up
putting
with-
in an island.
Without putting in an island, yes, they would be
That's why I
going over the
suggested-
buttons, but at least they wouldn't be destroying
Correct.
the island.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, Brian, could you please share with us the signage proposal that you received as well?
Yes, we'll forward it to you.
Because I think that especially Brad and Russ want to have a look at that, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the last item on new business, item F.
Okay, so, not too much different to say, other than the town doesn't have any in-house engineers. So for road projects and bigger capital projects, we like to get, a consulting firm to help us to make sure that the contractors or the construction crews are doing everything appropriately and everything, they're covering us for any, errors or activities going on by the construction crew. So the town, at the same time we put out the construction bid, we posted an RFP for CE&I services. It was open for 2 weeks. We got one proposal back, surprisingly, from a company called EAS Professionals. Their bid came back at $55,785. We reviewed it and everything, we reviewed it with the consultant. Everything seemed to be in line with that cost that cost versus the cost of the construction. So today, town staff is requesting that the Ways and Means Committee recommend approving this bid from EAS Professionals for CE&I services per the scope of the project.
All right, so we need a motion. Well, I'm going to say we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
My discussion is this is percentage-wise an unusually very high percentage.
I was going to defer to the engineer about it.
Very high percentage.
Yeah.
And it's because the cost of
Unreasonable.
the cost of construction is really small, which is why this I understand it's just bodies for time, so that it's an easy estimate. My experience is that engineering firms such as Kimley Wood provide the same construction inspection service for a cost. And commonly, that cost on small construction jobs like this would be much lower because somebody from the engineer would already be there anyway. So the incremental cost for the inspection services would not be anywhere near as much as this. Have we asked them for a cost?
No, we have not asked them for a cost. We certainly,
Yeah, and we can look into it. One of the things that on the Parkway, and maybe this is different, I'll defer to you as engineer, with the Parkway is larger. The reason why we didn't before is that we essentially didn't feel like the same company should be inspecting their work. So we had wanted
And I agree.
a third party.
I 100% agree. That's the way it should be done, that you should not have the same organization
And that was the
inspecting.
only reason why.
You're correct on that. However, with this is such a small job.
And we can probably check with Kimberly Horn, and maybe with your experience, you may be able to kind of keep a lookout kind of behind Kimberly Horn.
That would be a lot of fun. I would love to.
I was going to volunteer Kimley Horn and our resident engineer to oversee this project. You'll get a sandwich out of it.
There you go. So I would
We'll
suggest,
talk with them.
In my mind, I would submit a motion not to approve this and table it and request Kimberly Horn to provide a proposal.
Agreed.
Did they provide any explanation? I mean, they clearly, when they submitted this, it is so high. I mean, what were they thinking in terms of a $55,000, a 30%?
so
Oversight.
looking at the breakdown, and this is a question that I'm still awaiting an answer to from the offer. They put in a longer timeline than what we think is actually going to take to do this project. So they're accounting, they've got a couple extra weeks worth of billable items, manpower, lodging, because someone's coming down from Greenville, I think is where it is. So they put in a lot of extra time into this proposal. And my question to them was, is this a not to exceed price, or is this what you're expecting to get? Because if we finish, we've seen True Luck blast through some projects in pretty timely fashion. So if they're able to finish up in 3 weeks, are we just going to be billing them for 3 weeks, or are we going to be billing them for what their bid is?
This is a pretty small project, and the
And they're
idea of
actually-
$55,000 for just monitoring a small project just seems.
Well,
Well, I'm just
but
giving
the
you
question
guys the
is
benefit of
more,
the doubt.
why
What
are
was
we
their answer?
using a firm from Greenville, South Carolina, instead of from our neighborhoods?
So we put it out for bid. We got back what we got back. This company they have an office here in Charleston, in North Charleston, but their senior inspector is based out of Greenville, so that's where the inspector would be coming from.
Yeah, but that explains the high cost,
Kimberly
because they're
Horner
probably
listed
billing
as
us for every hour he's on the road every other day.
Yes. Yes,
So
that's
that's a,
some of it.
what, 7 hour, 7 hour, of cost just for driving?
Yeah, I mean, 3 hours here, 3.5 hours here, 3.5 hours back. That's what they had written into. And again, I'm waiting was hoping to have this answer from them prior to today's meeting, but I'm finding out if this was a not to exceed price or an actual what they're expecting to be paid. But I mean, it sounds like we're gonna explore another option right now, so.
Yep.
That's fine,
I
but
would-
my point is, is there a willingness on their part to rebid it?
Right.
If they said it was going to cost, if they said it was going to take one period of time, and now you have a quote from True Luck that's going to take another period of time, do they wish to rebid it? If they don't wish to, then the heck with them.
Right.
It just seems like they've gone through their own time and energy to prepare something. That's fine. Then you get back with them and you say, we're not going to accept your bid, and they said, why? And you say, well, you said it was going to take 2 months. It's really only going to take 3 weeks. Oh, we didn't know. It's just
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
business with these people. Just
Absolutely, and that's why, I waited to get the timeline from True Love
Love.
to see what they had, and then I sent that over to the CE&I consultants.
So they have seen it and they're not willing to come back with a new?
No, I
price?
haven't heard back from them quite yet.
Okay, all right, well,
Right.
anyway, just,
So what it sounds like, we're gonna contact Kimley Horn to see if they would be
Yeah.
interested in pricing out consulting themselves on this
they
project.
do that?
Most
They
engineering
do that. They
firms
have
do that.
someone, yeah, they have the ability to do that. They'll have someone else, obviously, in their office to do it. They just have to give us a price to be able to do that work. And then, of course, we can get Russell, and then depending on the cost, it'll come back to you all at the April meeting, if it's over $10,000. If it's not, then it can be signed off by the mayor or one council member if their cost is under 10.
But EAS are project managers.
Yes, this is what they do.
This is what they do.
Yes, sir.
So just, I'm more comfortable with a firm that this is what they do, rather than a firm that may not be exactly what they do, get hung up on price, and the whole thing may be misunderstanding relative to timeline.
Well, we'll make sure that Kimley
Yeah.
Horn has a department dedicated to this type of work before we just pull somebody.
I
Yeah.
believe they do. It's just historically, we just haven't had the same company,
And that's
yeah.
the right, and
Yeah.
Stephanie, that's the right answer. It's just that this is so small, and it's a simple job. They should be able to do it very simply.
Yes.
And equally, the project manager should have a corresponding price for that. Just make sure that they have the right ingredients, the right data. Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right.
But Brian, as said, what the mayor said, so maybe first check with EAS if they use the right timing, and in parallel, go to Kimberly Horn.
Yeah, then you got apples to apples.
Yep, absolutely. That sounds
Okay,
good.
well, how did we?
You have a motion and a second to deny the application, the
Did
proposal.
you make that motion?
Yeah, Russell
I
made a
thought I did.
motion
Okay.
to not approve and to ask Kimberly Horn to
Right.
provide a price.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, do you have a report?
I only have one topic I wanted to mention, and it partially goes back to item D under new business with the solid waste fees. Brian, that also falls into probably your department and Stephanie. So I've heard quite a bit of noise from community members about, a further decreasing service level by Carolina Waste, who has lost our solid waste contract by the end of June. Has staff looked into this and can confirm that there is, a decline in service performance?
There has been an increase, definitely, and Dorota can speak on this as well. There has definitely been an increase in complaints, and we have constantly notified Carolina Waste of the issues. The way the current contract is written, they have 24 or 70 or 30, 24
I
hours
think
to.
30 days.
No, 24
days,
hours,
but-
24 hours
okay.
to address the issue before we can find them. We have fined them in the past, but it's become a real issue. Carolina Waste is also, they try to get out of their contract early and negotiated with Trident to even try to start, I believe, as early as April 1st or May 1st. No. They wanted, my question was, they talked to Carolina Waste, I thought, to try to start, they talked with Trident to try to start at April 1st, but Trident can't start to May 1st. Yeah, so Carolina Waste was even trying to see how to get out of our contract early. So we are aware, and we're constantly on them. When we do get complaints, if they can address it, Brian and Michael have gone out and have picked up trash.
Well, the issue here is, first of all, it would be good news if Trident can start earlier, right?
Yeah,
May
they can
1st sounds, that would be
May
2 months
1st.
earlier, so that would be good.
Yeah, they're starting
But then
May
the
1st.
question would also arise if we should actually not cancel the contract instead of leaving it to Carolina Waste and Trident to do that. And instead that we are canceling the contract for lack of performance with Carolina Waste by April 30th.
Oh, okay, yeah, that doesn't change
Right, because
any.
we have, according to the contract, we have the right to do so.
Right,
And it would solve a lot of other issues that we are dealing with right now as well.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, the one issue, by doing that is that we
So-
would guarantee the garbage cans.
Right. I would recommend that, we get a firm written confirmation from Trident that they can start their services on May 1st. And if we have that in our hands, I would recommend as a second step then right away to cancel or discontinue whatever for a lack of performance, the contract with Carolina Waste.
Oh, that's what council,
Okay.
I mean, he's putting that to you all. If
Yeah, I'm
that's
okay with
something
that.
you would like staff to do, we'll talk with our town attorney to make sure that, if we give the 30, because it's a 30-day termination, so we're a little bit beyond
Right.
30 days. If Carolina Waste comes back and say, great, you guys cancel the contract, we're going to actually make it effective April 3rd. We just have to be mindful that we may not have a trash company for 2 or 3 weeks. But
Well, that's why I recommended step 1 and step 2. Let's get a written
can't
confirmation by
lock down
Trident first. And if
Okay.
it's ending up to be May 15th, or even if we are ending up June 1st, the advantage for the community to have a better service as soon as possible is one thing. And it solves a lot of other issues with Carolina Waste as well.
yeah, so.
We talked about this before, Stephanie.
Right.
We even consulted with Joe Wilson about this. So let's
Okay,
do
so
it.
just so that I'm clear again, because I guess you maybe didn't hear me. Trident has already guaranteed they can start May 1st. We already know that.
Do we
Carolina-
have that in writing?
Yes, I believe, do you have that in writing, Brian, or they've just been in communication between Carolina Waste and Trident?
They have both verbalized it to me. It's not in writing yet, but I'll get it.
Okay, so we'll get that in writing from Logan, from Trident, that they will start May 1st. We would get
Right,
with
and then-
MAC
Right.
to do a letter to be able to say that we want to terminate the contract effective April 30 days in September, April 30th.
It seems like the two
Right.
companies have already worked this out.
They have,
We don't,
but they have. It was just really doing this has to do with trash cans.
okay. Well,
Okay.
do you need anything
So
from
all of
us?
this
If you
should
guys
not be
are-
a surprise, Stephanie, because we talked about this before.
Right, I was just making sure that all of council would be in support, because this is terminating, so staff can't just terminate the contract. You guys have to, as a group, tell us to do that.
Do you just need a,
Just a motion to terminate effective
Okay,
April
so I
29th.
put a motion forward that we would solicit a written confirmation from Trident to start earlier their services for the community, and second, that we are then canceling the contract with Carolina Waste for a lack of performance.
fine. Second?
Okay.
Second,
Actually, probably, let me step back on that, I'm sorry, Michael, because what you're suggesting, Michael, has to deal with a council issue, and it's not on the agenda, but what we may be able to do is at the 1 o'clock meeting to amend the agenda to put it on. My only thing is that you guys are taking an action that was not officially noticed, and actually you're taking an action as Ways and Means, and this is really a council action, I think. Maybe it's a recommendation from Ways and Means, but because it wasn't noticed, I'm a little concerned about
That's right.
taking action on something that's not noticed.
fair point.
Okay, and let's bring it up at 1 o'clock again.
Okay.
That was it. Thank you.
I'm still struck if the companies have worked this out, if they could have something, well, whatever. That's basically what we're doing, is just agreeing to what they've agreed to.
Yeah, there's one additional aspect to it, but yes, in general.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so I do have a presentation, but I don't know where it is, and Petra is not here, but I'll just go without it. The first item was the budget report. However, I already presented it, and we just, it's only the 5th of March, and I didn't have a chance to close February. So I'm not going to go back to that report because I presented it at last Ways and Means, and just start on the budget.
Hold on, Dorota. So to topic number A, when you, in your spreadsheet, that you have a column that is called year-to-date actuals, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so these year-to-date actuals do now include accruals for certain
No.
revenues and cost or not?
No. No. Well, in a budget report, they don't, I accrued only expenditures. I don't accrue revenues because it's just hard to estimate some of those things. So I try to, we have this discussion at the audit committee, and so I try to accrue expenditures mostly that I can, I know, like the garbage fees, legal fees, consulting, the one that I know of. So that's what
Okay,
it
then you
has.
should, I'm just saying, then you should please make at least a footnote or some commentary that clarifies where you have made accruals and where not.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I might make it
Yeah,
a little
it
more
gets very
clearer.
confusing if you're mixing cash and
Yeah.
accrual
Yeah.
on a
Yeah,
line that says
exactly.
actual.
And it's okay that you don't, that you only do this for A, of course, what you know, and B, for the expenditures, but then maybe make an asterisk behind the different line items
Sure.
and then a comment on below that they do include accruals. So just to make it
So,
clear
yeah.
and transparent.
So majority is cash. This is all cash except for I was trying to, with the legal, like I said, the one that we have, but I'll make a note then going forward.
Just for clarity. Thank you.
Sure. So just to give you a timeline, and especially for Ms. Kay, so today we're going to start the budget discussion, just concentrating on the revenues, and next month we'll have the expenditures. We'll look at the expenditures. The following month, in May, we'll have consolidated the whole budget for the first reading, and we'll have the public hearing after that. And the budget, with the goal to have the budget approved in June town council meeting after second reading. And so just to give you an idea how they will spend a lot more time on the budget. And I apologize for this no presentation, but do you
Yes.
do you have on my
No, not
okay.
that.
Okay. So historically, the town's fund balances are healthy. In 2020, when the COVID pandemic hit, we noticed a drop in our revenues, and just the dynamics of what happened. The island was closed for a little bit over a month, and that brought very conservative approach for the council at that time when we project revenues. And we'll continue with this conservative approach. However, if you see at this first table that I have with the historical revenues, they continue to rise. And with last year being the highest yet of about a little more of $17 million. So overall, I'm proposing to budget pretty flat revenues comparing to what we're going to collect this year. What I'm projecting we're going to collect this year. And this is going to be a total of about $15.4 million, which is flat, but a little lower than projected this year. But this is due to pretty much one line item that is building permits from a special project. This year we collected permits for Beachwalker developments, and next year we're not projecting any new one-time big projects. So when you look at the graph or the pie chart, you'll see that our revenues are pretty diversified, but one thing gives us a lot of strength, but you also, it's important to note that we don't have we don't have property tax, so we don't have this one known income, and they really depend on economy and tourism. Just to go line by line with our major revenues, so I'm projecting that our building permits will decrease a little bit, about 100,000, and it's because we estimate the slowdown in the new construction and that's where the big revenues or big money comes from. The average permit for new construction is 10,000, comparing to average price for the renovation project, then is 650. So with that, we are projecting a little decrease in the new construction permits, but slow increase in renovation as the houses age on the island.
So, I mean, Dorota, I mean, 1 million drop is major, right? It's not just a little adjustment, but we understand where it comes from as it relates to the Beachwalker Drive parcels. But does that number of 1.1 also include some of the Kiowa Island golf resort projects like the Nature Center and I believe the tennis center renovation? So are they included in the 1.1?
So the resort, we're projecting, but based on the estimated cost of this nature or the activity center, we're going to collect about $50,000 in building permits. So I didn't separate it as a special project. I included them just in the building permits because it is rather small.
That's fine.
Amount.
That's fine. But it's included the tennis center renovation as well.
Just the activity center, because that's what I was. Maybe that's part of it, but that's what I was told that's what the board approved for next year.
Yes, the general manager told me that it's 2 projects: the tennis center and the nature center. So you want to double check
Michael, when you're
that,
saying the
please.
Nature Center, you mean the new activities building or separate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, whatever, it's behind the nest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I was told by Roger that there are 2 projects that they approved for the near term, and that is the tennis center and the nature center or activity center.
Double check though. I also did check with him, and he only told me about one. But I can add it. But just based on the
Yeah, but you talked to him before the recent board meeting.
yes.
So I spoke to him after the
Okay.
board meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, then I can probably just get some costs from the project manager is really great and willing to share, the estimated costs. I can add it, and I will change it for the next meeting. I can add some estimate for that project. And
So to
change.
some extent, this may be not a one-time, but a somewhat cyclical, because it would anticipate if the resort goes forward with development of East and West Beach, that those revenues would be more in line with the Beachwalker projects.
Yeah, but like you said, as of now, they don't have an okay for
Right,
next
right,
year.
sure.
So
I understand.
I meant,
Yeah, okay.
one time as we don't count them as coming like
Yep,
other
yeah,
permits, but.
okay.
But I think, Brad, the likelihood of those projects, becoming active in the 24-25 business years looks small.
Oh, I agree with that. But I'm just saying this, you may see a cycle back up in the next,
Yes.
2 or 3 years, getting
Yes.
more in line with fiscal 23 and
That's correct.
24.
I think so too, yes.
So the business license revenue, I'm budgeting to increase about 200,000, and this is the business license fee is based on gross revenue, and with the increase of cost of goods and services, and also we planning to put a little more efforts in, or more efforts in compliance in business license for the businesses. I feel that we can collect more money in there, and even though this is not going to affect next year budget, but at the retreat we'll look at the business license fees, and if you feel like we want to change them, but that will affect the next year budget.
I mean, to maybe explain this a little bit more, Dorota, because I think your team is doing a really great job here. For my colleagues, so we received from Kika really great collaboration in identifying companies that are entering the island for business. And the Rodas team is now comparing that list with those that have business licenses. And the team identified actually a quite significant number of companies that seem to be entering the island without a proper business license. So the Rodas team now is following up with these companies, and we have already collected and will probably collect more money from those companies when they have to pay their business licenses going forward. So there's quite more emphasis, as Dorota said, on compliance by us auditing the firms that are entering the island and can identify those that are not properly paying their business license.
And Dorota did provide us with some good data. I guess one question would be if 1,000 companies, 33% were without a license, it's great to get potentially future business license revenue from them. Is there an ability to find them?
So the plan is right now, this project takes a very long time. So we've sent the first notice to those businesses that didn't have a license. We have some response. The plan is we're going to send a second notice, and we also going to advertise in eBlast that the town is going to enforce this ordinance with the citations. So we will send to those that are not responsive after the second notice, we will send a certified letter with the citation, or a citation in a certified letter, and see how what response we get. So this is the hurdle in those projects, because we've done it in the past, kind of similar, but no responsiveness and that follow up. That's where it gets hard. But we'll do our best. Like you said, we're going to try certified letters. We have now our code enforcement helping us finding better addresses too, because we have a lot of return addresses. We Google the businesses for the addresses. A lot came back, but I think our code enforcement has some better option or software that can find it. And also I want to commend Kika, because they help us too. Every time Julie asks for an address, they will give us and cooperate with us on that too.
Well, when you say non-responsiveness, and some may be small businesses that are just tough to track down, but some, of 1,000, if you learn that they've been operating on the business on the island for a year or more, without paying business license fees, are we going to go back and collect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we're doing now. So we
That's
collecting.
the whole process that we reinstated, because I think before COVID, the town was doing this.
Yes.
And now Dorota's team is really going back and enforcing it.
So right now we collect, because 2023 business license is good till April 30th. So right now when they actually applying for last year business license, and we'll have them apply for next year or current year. And there is late fees. There is So I feel like we have a good process. It just sometimes the enforcement finding the no responsiveness, that's where we hit the wall. But once they do respond to us, so there is a lot of businesses that they didn't realize they need a Kiowa license, for example, because they have Charleston license. And a lot of those businesses, what gets complicated because they feel like we double tax, which is not the case, because then you don't report to Charleston what you report to us. But if it's a significant amount of money, they can amend that with Charleston. But so there's a lot of steps to that, but it is majority of those businesses, they were small businesses that either forgot to apply or forgot to renew. There is really a lot of them, majority of them, they had a license before with us, and they just failed to renew it. So.
And although it's a lot of work, but I think there's quite some money we can collect.
I mean, it's a significant percentage of our budget. I mean, this is a
Exactly.
big budget line item, revenue line item.
It is, and the compliance, you know, in itself, I also feel like there is a word on the streets that the town is going after. So that helps too, like, you know, like if you're in the same kind of business. So, yes. Okay, so the next revenue source is the franchise fees. And we have three types. We have one with electric company, beach, and cable and phone companies. And because some of those revenues are seasonal or seem like seasonal, and I know we discussed it last time, I thought that putting them in a couple of years by month, you'll see that we are in line this year as we were, you know, in the prior years. And we just actually received a check from Berkeley Electric for $440,000. So that's what we budgeted. I don't budget any increase. I budget this number flat, as I don't see. I talked to beach services. They're not planning on raising the prices. That beach franchise fee comes from it's either 30% of the gross receipts or $300,000. So.
Well, I'm curious particularly about Berkeley Electric, but also beach services or others, given the fact that there are more people on the island.
So,
that you would
so
think
he
that
doesn't
fees.
feel that way, actually, because we've collected through beach services, we've collected a little less than we collected last year, what they paid last year. So even though it may seem like there's more people, but he said that those blue, what do you call those flying, you know, those shades, the blue shades, that's a big competition for them.
Well, okay, put aside beach service, I guess Berkeley Electric. I mean, we know that there are more residents on the island, there's more home building. We've got traffic data from Kika going through the gate with all-time high numbers. How come we aren't collecting more in franchise fees from Berkeley Electric?
You know, that fee is so small. You see it on your invoice every month. This is like very small. This is actually comes from the not just residents, but whoever pays the bill. Well, it just was pretty steady through the years. So even though we've seen this increase in number of people, and there is another part of it that I can request the records to audit that, but I haven't done it.
So Brad, to your point, which I think is very valid. So first of all, the audit committee is looking into, you know, applying a better schedule for auditing these firms that are, you know, eligible to pay us the business license fees. And I think soon DeRoda will actually put forward a proposal for an additional team member that will focus on these audits. Now, the decision would be if we want a person to audit these firms, you know, internally, or if we are contracting somebody outside. That's a discussion we need to have. But what is really important is that the town becomes far more active in enforcing our rules and making sure that these companies are audited and paying their proper fees.
Yes. So they right now, they bring us a check. However, we in a contract, we can audit them. I just didn't have a chance for that. But for now, I'll just projecting it as a flat number. And actually, that was maybe 3 years ago. The check was cut only for like $300,000. So then I requested the records, and I never actually got the records. However, I got the difference to 400. So, like I said, that fee is pretty flat, and maybe not really. You know, the new people, it could be they not allocated to Kiowa. You know, when they open the new accounts, it could be just an error. You know, like clerical error. They paying it somewhere else. Okay, the next one. So the sales tax and accommodation taxes, I'm just projecting like 1-2%, a small increase. I was talking to the big management companies, and they they projecting the same occupancy rates for next year. However, maybe 2% increase in accommodation prices. So I applied pretty much that 2% to state, county, and local accommodation taxes. The same thing, hospitality tax, it's at 1%, pretty much. We already seen the increase in inflation and in the prices in the restaurants. Hopefully, they will keep the inflation stable at the moment for next year, and will not see more increases. But this is the tax. Hospitality is the tax that you pay on foods in the restaurants.
So from the folks you talk to, everybody continues to be optimistic about the level of business?
Optimistic, yeah. No drop, but no big, increases in occupancy rates.
Well, I think occupancy rate's going to be an issue. There may be, but pricing may be,
Yeah.
they're going to be charging more.
The solid waste I will change. For now, we'll leave it because I assume that you'll be fine with that approach of 50% of the subsidy, but I will change that number to whatever is decided next month. I do project a little decrease in the interest revenue just based on the projections in the interest rates market. And other revenues, it's a number of, I'm trying to be fast only because it's close to the town council and have some room for questions. So this is just a number of small revenue sources. This is the 8-2 subdivision that comes from the state, planning fees. There is pretty much no changes to any of those except for the 8-2 subdivision. I do get the projections from the state, how much they're going to pay us. So it will be a small increase. The court fees with no change, beverage permit revenue with no change, victims assistance fee, just to make sure that this is something that we pay every time the ticket is issued. By state, we have to collect this money and then either have our own victims assistance program or pay it to the state that will be spent on those programs. And the miscellaneous revenue this year is a little higher because we received finally that reimbursement from equipment and cars for our deputies.
Do you recall, I'm sorry, do you recall in your interest income what you went from to? What the average of 24 was and you're projecting to 25?
I'm sorry?
What you experienced at 24 and what you're projecting in 25? From what?
So the projected, it's about 5%.
And our rate right now, something obviously higher. Is higher than
What do you mean it's higher?
your return, what we're experiencing in terms of return versus what?
Oh, on the interest?
Yeah,
Oh, right now it's a little, it's a little over 5.
yeah, okay. Okay.
So any questions I know this is just the revenue. Once you see the whole picture, then it kind of brings a little more questions and attention when you see the bottom line. But like you said, I try to be conservative, based it on historical averages. And in the past, it was pretty good. There were pretty good estimates. If there were like some big variances, there was a good explanation for it. But we were normally pretty steady in steady growth in our revenues.
The only, just so I understand, the revenues that we have, the levers or the revenue sources that we have some control over, at least in terms of the rate,
Yes.
would be business licenses, business permits, and solid waste fees. Is that it? Maybe franchise fees?
That is, franchise fees not as much because by law it's 3%. That's the state law.
Okay.
Except for the beach, because that's a contract that we
yep.
have with them. However, there is also a state law says that for local accommodation taxes and hospitality, it can be 2%. Right now it's at the 1%.
Okay.
It's up to the council. So in the event that you feel, those are restricted revenues, so, but if you at some point feel like that can go up 1% on those two. That's pretty much it. But the general fund is just building permits and business license.
Okay.
Okay, so anything else?
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deruta. Still needs to, you look at 20, there's a big delta between 20 and 24, 20 and 25. I know what it was, but I'm just saying, so. Oh, yeah. And we did well in those years, so. Well, hopefully we'll always. Just hope it continues.
Yeah.
Citizen comments. Committee member comments. Mr. Chairman, any comments? Oh. Brad?
No, sir.
Russ?
No, thank you.
Madeline?
Nope.